She's Electrocharge Emily. Of course I like her. Hello! This video might be a little different from the usual one, because I just pulled an ineffa last night, and while I am familiar with her kit, I haven't really gotten the chance to test her as much as I'd like to. So that's what this video is going to be. Me experimenting with a few teams that I thought might be cool, and finding out if they're cool. But first, of course, let's do the kit rundown. Because ineffa kind of is one of those needlessly complicated characters, but there are a lot of small nuances in her kit that are important to playing her correctly. So what do I mean when I say Electrocharge Emily? I mean it. Do get it twisted. This is a copy-paste. Medium female model coming out in an X.8 version, polearm unit that does damage off-field through the use of their skill, that requires a specific reaction to do a lot of talent damage, and while that damage is activated through their skill, a lot of it is not considered skill damage. Her skill has more than 100% uptime, and her burst does a little bit of damage while replacing the skill. She is just Electrocharge Emily. This is the same unit in a different font, but I like the font. I think the font's cool. Even coming down to the fact that you're not really focusing on the damage that you get from the reaction. You more care about the fact that the reaction enables each of them to do more talent damage. Although to be fair, ineffa does care about lunar charge damage a lot more than Emily cares about burning damage. So let's actually start off with that passive, because I think it's one of the most misunderstood parts of her kit. Triggering Electrocharge while ineffa is in the team converts it to lunar charge, which summons this thundercloud above an enemy's head, and while it has a nice little visual effect of striking the opponents with lightning, it pretty much acts as Electrocharge does, slowly consuming your Electro and Hydro auras over time to deal damage. But Hoyo has said a lot of things about Lunar Charged that may make you think it's a lot better than it is. And ineffa is kind of designed in a way that makes you think that the Lunar Charge damage is doing more than it is. Let's get away from here before I get blown up. When it comes to triggering the reaction and dealing damage, there's not much that Lunar Charge does differently from Electrocharge. It hits at a slightly slower rate. Lunar Charge is limited to once every 2 seconds, while Electrocharge hits at a variable rate, anywhere from once every 2 seconds going down to as low as once every second. But again, like, big whoop, why do I care? The biggest difference comes in with how the damage is calculated. The two big differences that Hoyo keeps pointing out is that Lunar Charge can crit, and multiple different units can contribute to its damage, rather than just the unit who triggered the reaction in the first place. Every single unit who was involved in applying an element for the reaction to happen contributes to its damage. Sorry, let me get out of here. I'm just running away from these guys. Will you leave me alone? Chicken bone, leave me alone. So with that information, you might assume Lunar Charge does a lot more damage than Electrocharge. If multiple units can contribute to its damage, and it can crit, it has to do more damage than Electrocharge, right? Yeah, no, it doesn't. There's a pretty sharp fall-off when it comes to how many units can contribute to Lunar Charge damage. The unit who contributes the most, which is usually the unit with the highest EM, because obviously Lunar Charge damage scales with EM, it's a transformative reaction, they contribute their full damage to the Lunar Charge proc. The unit with the second largest contribution only gets half of the damage that they would deal added on to the Lunar Charge proc. Then from there, the damage that your third and fourth units would contribute also gets reduced. I believe the numbers are 1/8 and 1/12, but I could be wrong. Whatever those numbers are, they're too low to consider. After the second unit contributing to the formula, the rest of your team doesn't really matter that much. But still, that is multiple units contributing to the reaction, and it scales with crit, so it has to be better than Electrocharge, right? Sorry, but I got some bad news for you. Lunar Charge has both a lower base damage and a lower EM scaling than regular Electrocharged. So its damage already starts off at a lower floor and scales worse with EM. So factoring in everything, multiple units can contribute and the reaction can crit, but also it has a lower base damage and lower scaling. It all comes together to make Lunar Charge deal roughly similar damage to Electrocharge. Okay, so what the hell was the point of making a new reaction if it just does the same damage as the old one? And yeah, I admit that Lunar Charge is not very different from electrocharge at base. But it does bring one thing to taser teams that they have been sorely lacking since day one, and that is consistency. Taser teams have always had massive issues with consistency. Because the auric changes so frequently, you can never really build one unit with the specific purpose of being a reaction trigger. The only characters you ever really did that with were characters that used EM for other things, like Ineffa, who uses it for healing, Kazuha, who uses it to buff damage percent, or of course Sucrose, who just shares a portion of her own EM. Even then, they're not necessarily guaranteed to trigger a lot of electrocharges. They just trigger a few and happen to benefit from EM in other ways. Your other characters, like say Xingqiu, he just goes on a normal talent damage build because the damage that you would get from triggering electrocharges with him was just too inconsistent to really be worth it. When it comes to lunar charge, you are ensuring that the character with the highest damage contribution, and usually the most EM, although I guess I should probably say now, after a certain point with EM, it becomes a lot more valuable to build crit, so it's actually probably more like your character with the best mix of EM and crit rather than just your character with the most EM. In any case, you ensure that the character with the highest contribution is always contributing the maximum amount. You don't get multiple units all triggering their own electrocharges to varying degrees of success. You are consistently getting fairly strong procs. The other thing that it does kind of goes back to what I said about the hit interval. Electrocharge's hit interval is variable depending on auras, depending on how many enemies are nearby. Because of that, electrocharge becomes a better reaction in AoE scenarios. Lunar charge throws that out the window. If an enemy is affected by Hydro and Electro, they will take lunar charge damage once every 2 seconds. It smooths out the curve and makes it a more viable reaction in single target without completely neutering its efficacy in AoE. So yeah, that's kind of my general impression of lunar charge so far. The damage and the way it's triggered in game are very similar to electrocharge, but it provides much more of a consistent and reliable damage source. Now, let's get on to the rest of the stuff that we can actually see. Using her skill, just places this little robot, the lovely Brigitte. It also creates a shield. This shield's health scales based on Ineffa's attack. She is a character you're going to build a lot of attack on, and this is a fairly decent scaling. So as long as you level the talent a little bit, you'll get a fairly strong shield. It's not like Zhongli's shield, it's not like Lanyan's shield, but it's also not like a paper shield like Citlali's. It can take a few hits, it's just a nice defensive utility, not incredibly notable. Anyways, back to the robot. Despite what it looks like, it's not a turret. You can just push it around if you want, but even if you don't, it teleports to enemies and deals AoE damage to them. It's not locked to the spot that you place it at. By default, all it does is teleport around. Every 2 seconds, it deals a nice little chunk of attack scaling damage, has a chance to generate a particle every hit. Pretty unimpressive kind of run-of-the-mill skill here. And as I kind of mentioned before, both the shield and Brigitte herself last longer than the cooldown of the skill, so Ineffa's rotation length can be fairly flexible. She can run in 20-second rotation teams, she can run in 16-second rotation teams. In fact, if we go to the burst, which does a nice little bit of AoE damage and resummons Brigitte, refreshing its duration, we can see that if you can get enough energy to burst off cooldown, she can do 15-second rotations, although her shield is linked to the skill, so if you want to make use of that, you're stuck to 16-second rotations at a minimum. Also, speaking about flexibility, just so we don't have any misconceptions, again, just like Emily, she has no direct team requirements. There's nothing in her kit that says if you include a character who isn't Electro or Hydro, the reaction will shut off or her kit will shut off. She just needs Hydro to deal lunar charge damage, which is relevant in a few other ways, but I'll get back to that. One last thing about the skill that I am legally required to note. It has this lovely cute little face, but when Ineffa swaps off field, she takes over. Funny little Ineffa robot. I talked about the burst replacing the skill. I probably should just show that off. My cooldown is just come off. So I have a few seconds left on Brigitte, and then I use my burst, and she is refreshed and dealing damage again. The burst also doesn't have to be a refresh. If Brigitte's duration has expired, then this burst will just summon a new one. Continuing on to her Ascension passives, just like Emily, you probably saw that her skill alone, not dealing a lot of damage. I do have it at level 8, and while this build isn't fantastic, It's also nowhere near bad. Got a pretty good level 90 weapon on her at R5. I could get a better ratio, but it's not bad by any means. And I've got 2000 attack. So I'm obviously doing something wrong here. That is where her Ascension 1 passive comes in. This is the majority of Ineffa's damage. If there are thunderclouds created by the lunar charge reactions nearby when Birgitta unleashes her attack, she gets an initial instance of damage, 65% of Ineffa's attack. This damage is considered lunar charge damage. Now, 65 still does not sound good, because we look at the original scaling, 153% was only getting me 4000 damage ticks, so how is 65 going to be the majority of her damage? Because yeah, just to be clear, she does proc this whenever this attack is done, hits at the same interval once every 2 seconds. This comes down to the text, this damage is considered lunar charge damage. Apart from not having that convoluted multiple units can contribute to the damage thing going on, this is calculated just like lunar charge damage. Instead of having a base damage amount that goes up with your character's EM and also crit in the case of lunar charge, its base damage is all based on Ineffa's attack. So maybe now you're asking, if the damage is based on Ineffa's attack and it can crit, how is this any different from talent damage? Why is this being lunar charge damage important? And in those ways, yes, it does act very similar to talent damage, but it being considered lunar charge damage has two big implications. The first one is that it, like all other transformative reactions, ignores defense in calculation. Normal talent damage is affected by enemies' defense stats. Defense is exactly how it sounds. It just reduces all incoming damage an enemy would take. Because this damage is considered lunar charge damage, and therefore transformative reaction damage, it effectively gets its multiplier tripled. Yeah, 65% attack looks low, but because that number doesn't have to go through defense, it's comparable to a normal talent damage multiplier of about 195. The other way that being transformative reaction damage affects it, it isn't buffed by damage percent stats. It's buffed by EM. This factor heavily affects how you want to build Ineffa and what teams you end up playing her in. You're pretty much always going to end up running her on attack percent goblet, and teammates that give damage percent bonuses are a lot less valuable to her. Instead of attack crit and damage percent, she cares about attack crit and EM. These two talents are normally affected by damage percent, but this talent, along with the lunar charges that she brings to teams, account for the majority of her personal damage in teams, not her normal damage talents. So it's not even really advised that you level these up very much. I'm gonna crown the skill because I'm insane and I kind of also want a big shield. Yeah, I'm not immune. But Ineffa is not a unit that you have to crown by any means. Most of her damage is done through this passive and reactions. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really mentioned it at all, but you've probably seen in other footage and seen a little bit here. Lunar Charge gets its own little font. Funky little italics. The reason why I say Ineffa's design is a little bit deceptive is because of this passive. You need thunderclouds nearby, that means you need to be triggering Lunar Charge, and Lunar Charge damage will be being dealt. And this damage is also considered lunar charge damage. It gets the same exact font as the reaction does. Let's trigger a one here. And we see, oh, those are two different instances of damage. One of these instances is my reaction damage, and another is Ineffa's talent damage that is considered lunar charge damage. And it can get kind of messy trying to figure out which is which. Especially, you know, I'm not even going to go with the eye here. I'm just going to do Ineffa, Xingqiu, Ifa, and things are getting a little crowded on screen. It's really hard to tell what damage is coming from the reaction and what damage is coming from Ineffa. Anyways, the rest of her kit is much more simple. A4 gives a full party EM buff based on her attack after using her burst. Yeah, I misread. It's not full party. It's only to Ineffa and your on-fielder. Not that that changes that much, but mostly just something I need to clear up. Results in around 120 to 180 EM, depending on how much attack you have, but there's no upper limit to it, so you could potentially just like roid out her attack and make her give 250 EM. She would need 4,000 attack to give 250 EM. Never mind. Maybe you can figure out a way to get 4,000 attack on her, but that's not going to be easy. This helps for the purpose of her own damage, because again, this damage scales off of EM. Helps for the rest of the team. When they're triggering lunar charges, they're all going to deal more damage. This talent essentially just makes the burst worth casting. Because before that, just the damage and the resummoning Brigitte, not really worth the long animation time. Strapping an instructor's effect to it, surprise, surprise, makes it kind of good. Then her last passive, because this is one of those passives that gives you additional value from building a stat up to a certain cap. So I'm bound to get questions of, do I have to reach 2,000 attack on an effa? Do I have to max out this passive? How important is it? I am never gonna get over the insane misinformation train where everybody says, you have to build Farina up to 40,000 HP to max out this passive. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Stop it. Just build enough HP on her. You don't need to hit 40,000. She's not terrible if she doesn't have 40,000 HP. Anyways, enough of time. This isn't one that you should go out of your way to build because it's not the biggest deal in the world. Increasing lunar-charge base damage will get you a nice increase in your overall team damage, but it's not fully necessary. And even though you shouldn't go out of your way to build it, you probably are going to anyways. Right here, my level 70 out of 80 ineffa, already capping out that passive. No issues at all. My weapon doesn't give any attack percent. I do have an attack 2-piece, but for the most part, it's that attack goblet and that attack sands doing most of the heavy lifting. This is what you should be putting on an effa anyways, and these two things by themselves are often enough to max out that passive. Of course, I do have a higher base attack weapon, but even if I drop to a lower, let's say Dragon's Bane, I'm still maxing it out. I also had never checked her attack without a Katane Cross Spear before, so I was completely gambling that I would still be over that passive's cap on Dragon's Bane, and I was right. Anyways, I do kind of want to go back to this talent just to clear everything up before I move on to a little bit of gear things. Although gear section I think is going to be fairly short. Taking a look at this passive, all that you need for this extra bit of damage to happen is for thunderclouds created by the lunar-charge reaction to exist. This means, just like Emily, you do not constantly need to be triggering electrocharge to get an effa's damage, you just need to trigger it often enough that a thundercloud consistently exists. And let's just do one little lunar-charge reaction, let's see how long this thundercloud lasts. It generates, it hangs around for a good 4 or 5 seconds, so you certainly need to be triggering electrocharge more than Emily needs to be triggering burning, but it's a lax requirement. As long as you have some off-field hydro, then you're set, you're getting her full damage. Now let's do gear. So this is the weapon that I set on using for this video, and a weapon that I probably am going to use going into the future, because while I do have technically better weapons for her, I like that Katane Crossfire has a good use now, and by using it I can get a better approximation for how an ineffa on a lower invested account might perform. This is a really nice weapon for her. High base attack, she's mostly an attack scaler, so she likes that. EM substat, again, her lunar charge damage trades damage percent scaling for EM scaling, so she makes pretty good use of that EM. Elemental skill damage percent, whatever. So little of her personal damage is considered elemental skill damage that that passive doesn't really matter. It's not doing nothing, but it's not really something that you should consider when looking for a weapon. The main value is the passive. After a skill hits an opponent, you lose 3 energy, and they regenerate 5 energy every 2 seconds for the next 6 seconds, for a total of 15 energy. And it can also be triggered off field, so she gets this passive pretty consistently, and she can get a lot of energy from it at higher refines. Her burst is fine for the damage and the Brigitte resummon, although neither of those things particularly justify its use. It's mostly the EM buff that it grants. A lot of her teams can make very good use of this EM buff, and therefore she wants to be bursting every rotation. Katane gives her a pretty nice option that gives her some reasonable damaging stats, while also almost wholly solving her energy needs. And another weapon that does that is, yeah. Who can't use Fav? Same high base attack, the substat and the particles solve her energy needs. Now, her energy needs aren't the highest in the first place, and of course that shifts around with what units you're running her with. Running double Electra helps a lot with her energy needs through the additional generated particles from the other character and Electra Resonance, because you don't need the energy that each of these weapons is giving you. In that case, the Torch remains a very solid free-to-play option, as it is on pretty much all recent polearm characters. Low uptime on the passive, but it does have a high base attack, and it gives 40% attack. It only gives energy through the substat, so it's not going to completely solve your needs like Katane or Fav would, But if you're in a team where maybe you have some ER rolls on your artifacts and you're only missing a little bit to be able to burst every rotation, then Torch may be your go-to option. Another event weapon is Missive Windspear if you had it. Again, kind of weird trigger conditions and low uptime on the passive, but it gives all good stats that she cares about. The 2 Battle Pass polearms are always solid options. Deathmatch has lower base attack and gives more crit rate and gives attack. Ballad has higher base attack, gives less crit rate, gives EM. Hyperbloom is actually a pretty solid option for her, and in those teams, you could actually throw Moonpiercer on her. It's a bit of a weird option. It has the same stats as Catane Crossspear, but of course it drops that leaf that gives an attack buff to whoever picks it up. You can either use that as a way to buff an on-fielder, or you can just ignore the annoyance and pick it up herself. Not a fantastic option, but it's a craftable and it's funny, and that's what counts. And of course she can pretty much make use of any 5-star stat stick. Engulfing helps with ER, Jade Wing Spear just is a stat stick. Same as most of the others, just stat sticks. With Calamity Queller probably being the standout among the 5 stars that aren't her signature. Scarlet Sands is also nice, converts some EM to more attack. If you build some EM on her, it can be pretty nice. But passives and weapons that convert stats to other stats can't stack on top of each other. So her burst giving EM based on her attack, the EM that she gains from this won't be factored into Scarlet Sands' passive, because then you just have like infinite stacking going on. It'd be crazy positive feedback loop. Whatever, just use anything on her, any 5-star stat stick works. For 4 stars, Catane is a really nice generalist option that is a craftable. Moonpiercer is a little bit more niche, but it can be more powerful. The Battle Pass weapons are the Battle Pass weapons. Fav is Fav. And then there's kind of the rest of the options that work a little bit less well. Now for her artifacts. This is going to be really fast, because she doesn't have any. Technically at the moment, Gilded Dreams 4-piece is her best set, but it's not by an incredible amount, and she's also probably gonna get a signature artifact set next version when Nodcry comes out. So really right now, do not bother farming any artifacts for her. If you have some existing good pieces that need to be leveled, maybe toss some levels into those, but at the moment my recommendation would probably just dig up a good 2-piece set that you have, any mixture of EM and attack set bonuses. If you really want to do a 4-piece, just because, I don't know, you have brainworms, I don't fault you. I also have brainworms. I'm gonna crown ineffa's skill, go 4-piece gilded, or if you somehow have a good DPS tenacity set, go 4-piece tenacity. Get some good buffs to the rest of the team without losing too much of her own damage. Noblesse is also technically an option, but it's just tenacity with more downside, so don't. I think that's it for everything, although that did take a little longer than I thought it would. Let's just start off with the first team I instinctually put her in, which is, you know, just kind of a traditional Aoife Taser team. And maybe this is where I talk about how unfortunate Ororon is. He was the first character to kind of be an electrocharge character. He only deals damage when you trigger electrocharges. It's kind of just like a 4-star version of ineffa, really. Works really well in AoE, but unfortunately, a lot of his power comes from his ability to hold scroll, which, you know, buffs damage percent, which ineffa does not care about. He can still benefit the rest of your team with this buff, and ineffa does some talent damage that scales with damage percent. It's not totally useless. It's just not really something you're looking for. So unfortunately, Ororon is not going to be a great unit with ineffa. I know that sucks, but it's just what it is. I don't know why they did this to him. What were they looking to achieve? In any case, you still can do it, and he still does pretty solid damage in AoE scenarios, but in the context of single target, I don't see myself using Ororon with ineffa. And by proxy, that means that ineffa has split the boyfriends up. Aoife is without his Midwestern emo husband, which, you know, it's sad, but we'll live with it. There's nothing particularly special about this team. It's just ineffa plus 2 electrocharge units that I enjoy playing that deal some damage, plus a res shredder and defensive slot. Although I have noticed some pretty significant increases to my single target clears. I guess I can take this time to talk about rotation stuff. You see that I'm going burst into skill for my rotations. The burst deploys Birgitta, so really the only thing that I'm using this skill for is summoning the shield, which is nice, but also the reason I'm going burst into skill instead of skill into burst, pretty simple. Contain Cross Spear. Causes you to lose a little bit of energy when you hit with the elemental skill. So if I went E into Q, I would have to wait for the flat energy to generate for me to use my Q. I want the effects of both the skill and the burst, so I just have to do them both. And Contain makes it so I have to do it in that order.
Annihilation mode. Defensive mode. Find the wind.
Xingqiu might be a little too slow for this team. I might swap the Yelan for an applier that can rotate a little bit faster. Okay, my computer just shut down in the middle of recording. The file doesn't seem to be corrupted. It's being really weird, but I'm gonna have to do some funny editing stuff, and I guess I just hope that the file is intact. Where was I? I was testing.
Bustle. You're about to get settled. Right here, right now, right here.
Ultimatum protocol. Cleanup sequence initiate.
Right now. Right here. Quiet now. Game's up. Time's over.
Beautiful. Yeah, that feels a little bit better than the Xingqiu variant, just because of that rotation speed. This goes a little too fast for Xingqiu. I also might be able to do like spend some time with Yaimiko on field in the Xingqiu variant. Let me check that out, see if that works. Also, I think my Xingqiu is on a I thought it was on a bad build. I didn't know it was this bad.
Defensive mode.
Let me read you a bit. Rain, outline, emerge. Right here. Nothing lasts forever. Right now, emerge. Right now.
Preparing for dust up.
Rain cutter.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Could also alter and do Xingqiu first in the rotation. Either one of those works. I guess you would do the Xingqiu first version if you're not playing Yai in this slot, and if you're playing a unit that takes up less field time. But I like this one. Me likey. Me a fan. I wanted to give a shot to Farina, because yeah, ineffa is not going to be benefiting from
Emerge. Right here.
Farina's damage percent.
Find the wind.
But Yai and Farina will. And Farina still, you know, deals a pretty sizable amount of damage herself.
Defensive mode.
Time to shine. Strike. Emerge. Right now. Emerge.
Okay. I want to do this on a stronger opponent that I can get a longer rotation on, so I can get a better feel for how the healing works. Because Farina's looking a little low. Probably also want to make her second. So after ineffa, we go into Farina.
Shower you with praise. Mining. Go inside. Right here. Right now.
Find the wind.
It's a little low. Although I am managing to keep up. Energy's a little low as well. I'm actually kind of feeling it. The shield is really, really helping me. Oh, hello. But the shield, it just makes Aoife feel so much better. Which is something that I kind of expected a little bit. But I didn't think it would, you know, change how I like felt about the character this much. I shouldn't kill this guy just so I have him around for more testing. But yeah, I like that. That feels good. It's not crazy damage over either of the Xingqiu or the Yelan versions, because the main damage dealer is not getting to benefit from Farina's buff. But it's functional, and it feels good to play, which, you know, those are all my requirements. And here, you can clearly see some of the different procs. I'm getting more 20,000 on the lunar-charge reaction procs, and 30,000 on, the ineffa's talent damage procs. Now I want to do one final test. I'll do
Who's our
Yelan here
target
because I
this
want to be
time?
rotating fairly fast. Because I know I said Ororon wouldn't be that
Want me
great,
to
but I
join?
think he at least deserves a shot. I want to see if this one, I expect it to be notably worse than the others. Ineffa is also one of those characters where, oh, her skill stays out too long, and she aggroes bosses after I teleport away.
Preparing for dust up.
Busted. Here comes the challenge.
Go! You're free now!
Even just against this boss, I can feel it. Ineffa is doing a lot to make up for the lost damage, but Ororon is struggling a little bit here. So I have him on a pretty good damaging build, but yeah, he just single target is not his thing. Maybe I can go back to you and get a better feel for how this feels in, again, longer rotations.
Quiet. Game's up.
I need to start booking in my
Find the wind.
in my tests against world bosses. Alright.
Busted.
Look. I actually don't think this is gonna help. I don't think I have enough energy. I don't. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. This might be a better thing to test against Abyss, but Abyss isn't particularly great for this right now with either of the first floor bosses. Is Stygian even open? Am I allowed to fight anything in Stygian, or does it just say, screw you, come back later? I am not allowed to fight anything. That's crazy. I think what's going on is Ororon is somewhat making up for his lacking presence, not like a ton, through Aoife's A1 passive, where Night Soul points grant damage bonuses to reactions, and lunar-charge is one of those reactions. It's a pretty low increase, but again, it can scale in multiple ways, and Ororon actually does have decent crit stats. So his existence is helping out the lunar-charge damage a little bit, but he's not helping in many other ways. And he does do significantly less damage than other versions of the team. And also, actually, let's do third option. Although, interestingly enough, I'm finding that I'm like rotating even a little fast for Farina, because she has that 20-second skill cooldown. I guess I don't have to skill, I can just burst, because she has a 30-second uptime, but it feels a little wrong not to.
Not too far now. Tell me what you see.
I'm also considering, I'm considering something a little weird for Aoife. I'm sticking on Aoife for a while because I like him. Yeah, that actually, that feels a little bit better. Anyways, I'm considering something for Aoife that we'll have to take him out of a Farina team to do this, because my thought is instead of going a full healing build for him, we instead go for a nice crit build. And even though he won't be dealing any talent damage, he might be able to contribute a decent amount to lunar-charge. This is like such feels crafting. I'm feels crafting unbelievably hard right now, but I guess we shall see. I'm also gonna go... not Hakushin. I think I will go on an even star. I like this on him, because, you know, Hakushin obviously gives damage bonus, and that's not affecting Ineffa. The attack does benefit everybody, except for Yelan. Okay, never mind. We won't go Yelan, we'll go Xingqiu. This might, again, this might be a little slow.
Rain outlines your face. Know my sword. Witness it.
Annihilation mode.
Not too far now. Time to say hello.
Mind the wind.
15k proc, 11k proc, 14k proc, did kind of well. Did kind of surprisingly well. Like maybe a little, not unreasonably well, just better than expected. I swear I'll do other teams in a moment. I like Aoife though. I like Aoife and I want to keep using him. Also, like, I mean, while I'm doing all this, I guess I can just mention that, again, Aoife, I'm just using him because he's a nice, you know, he does a lot of swirls on field, he shreds res, and he is a nice defensive unit. He's just kind of someone to put on field. Could pretty easily replace him with... Best option is probably Sucrose. Kazuha could be a functional choice. Could do, like, a Lanyan thing, 'cause she's a catalyst unit. Mizuki is pretty similar to Aoife. No full party healing, but they basically would be doing the exact same thing in this team. Just that Aoife is buffing the reaction damage of everything going on, whereas Mizuki would only buff swirl damage. So actually, yeah, maybe she would just be a little bit worse, but whatever. If you have Mizuki built and you don't have Aoife built, then don't build Aoife for this specifically, because he's only a little bit better. And then any other Animo Catalyst unit is usable. It's just like kind of, for some of them, why would you use them? Wanderer? Put Wanderer on VV, do some normal attack stuff with him. Shanyun, nice full party healer. But also just throw her on VV, do normal attacks. Heizo. You get the point. Oh, I messed up. I skilled first.
Go! You're free now!
Oh yeah, that works a little bit better.
Preparing for dust up.
That works better. Alright, so that's just a Xingqiu first type of team. This guy, hold on, this boss was one that I was struggling to down in one rotation with certain teams. I could also go against him, because if you don't down him in one rotation, then he goes into the high resist mode, when then he kills a lot of time, so it maybe feels like a better test. Crazy that this guy might be like my overworld test boss going into the future.
Ultimatum protocol. Defensive
Not too far now. Go! You're free!
I know. Oh, okay, I definitely can't. I might be able to kill him with a better team. I swear, I'll test other units that aren't Aoife in a second, but Aoife is so important to me. This matters so much. Although maybe the point of this section is that a lot of these options are really, really similar. Because the usual powerhouses like Farina, like Yelan, who a lot of their power comes from the damage bonus buffs, these teams don't make very good use of damage bonus. We'll do Farina. We'll do Fischl. This is like the best that I can possibly imagine. And I kind of doubt that it's going to be significantly better than the other teams that I've looked at. Oh, and actually then we need to put Aoife back on his healing build. Although the crit build didn't really seem to change anything, so I don't think we're losing much with that. Is Ineffa truly the great equalizer? She just makes all of her teammates perform exactly the same.
annihilation mode. Cleanup sequence initiated.
Let's go!
Time to shine.
Ultimatum protocol. Installation.
Wings of darkness.
Oh? Ooh, come on. Oh, I got so close. There we go, dropped. There we go. First try and everything. So yes, surprise, surprise, Farina Fischl do perform better than Xingqiu Ororon, but not like a crazy amount better. Probably around 10%, 15, which is definitely notable, especially in, you know, later game content that has a lot of HP and you're gonna need multiple rotations to clear a boss. Alright, now it's Aoife, your time in the spotlight is over. I think I have 3 more teams in mind that I really want to look at right now, but, you know, going into the future, I'm definitely going to be using ineffa in a lot of stuff. And those 3 teams, number 1 is definitely the one I was asked about the most, which is Sethos. Sethos is going to kind of act as a stand-in for any electro carry, because they're all going to perform about the same here. Sethos does have the benefit of his talent damage scaling with EM, so he's a little more directly synergistic with lunar-charge. And you know what? Since he's not getting aggravates and his charge shots aren't doing a ton in this team, this might actually be a Cloud Forged moment. I'm still not gonna level the thing, but it might be good here. None of these weapons really jump out to me. I don't think any of them are particularly good on Sethos in this team. I might do Aqua Simulacra just because it has the highest crit value here. Although I guess I also don't really need 4-piece Wanderers because, again, the damage bonus isn't doing a ton here. Maybe I just won't think too much about his build right now. EM Goblet. Actually, no, I like this one. We can go without Fischl. We're gonna have to go without Fischl because I want a Res Shredder. Ineffa's already Shielder, so I don't really want to go Lanyan. Dead, I think Sucrose is the move. And then for Hydro, probably just Yelan, because she can keep up with Sethos' speed. Gonna rotate pretty well. Who robbed you for your foams, my girl? Oh. Farina robbed you for your foams. Did she not have a fucking circlet on and she still one-rotated that guy? Okay, never mind. Maybe Farina Fischl is a bit more powerful than the other teams. Maybe I'm a little bit of a moron.
Way ahead!
Oh.
Into space.
Annihilation mode. Defensive mode engaged.
Busted. Computers are about to get psyched.
Animal tech 6308.
Way ahead.
Okay, yeah, I like it, actually. I was a little upset about having to cut Ororon from Sethos electrocharge teams. I want to go against Papilla. I don't know why, I just do. Because, you know, if you want to get a res shredder, which you do want to get a res shredder. Why was her mouth open for a frame? What was that? Why did you do that? If you want a res shredder, then there's just no room for Ororon. You need a Hydro to trigger an Effa, and then you need your res shredder. But I'm enjoying this enough to where I might forgive an Effa for pushing Ororon out of electrocharge teams.
Ultimatum protocol. Cleanup sequence.
Busted. Here comes the catch.
The shield is also making setups so much easier.
Into space.
And also, you know, just playing the game.
Whoa. Excuse me.
Look at that. I may want a healing option in this team because, you know, Sethos do be a little squishy guy. And sometimes if he gets hit, sometimes the shield breaks. Perhaps we want something a little stronger. He works, I like him. The shield provides, you know, good defensive utility, which Sethos is always kind of in dire need of. Wait, what? Oh, wait, I wasn't even res shredding. Huh. Talking about how I want a res shredder. And also, why do I have Mephimare? No EM buff, no nothing, just raw dog in it. Raw sucrose. This is like such a great test, isn't it? It's such a great test where I'm forgetting to gear my units.
Ultimatum protocol. Installation.
Busted. Computers are about to get psyched.
Animal tech
Into space. Aegis wisdom.
That looks more like it. Beautiful. Wow. He's doing okay. Maybe I actually do want damage percent on him. Because those charge attacks weren't doing nothing. I don't know. I'll hang out. I'll keep Aqua on him. Because it does give a lot of crit value, which benefits the reactions and the charge shots. For Sethos in general, I definitely think that electrocharge warrants a change in his build. I don't know exactly what that change is, but it's interesting and it's enjoyable to play. And Sethos is the coolest unit ever made, so you already knew that though. Now let's do, you know what, I'll save the best for last. We'll do Hu Tao. I think we're gonna go Xingqiu for that solo application. We'll keep scrolling her. I think a smarter person would put her on Instructor. Counterpoint, I am not a smarter person. It's a Dragon's Bane moment? Probably not a Dragon's Bane moment. Probably just a Ballad of the Fjords moment. Crimson Witch Hu Tao. What year is it? So I didn't explain any of this at all. I just kind of put a Hu Tao team in here and I expected you guys to know what I was doing. I think ineffa will be interesting in Vape for 3 reasons. Number 1 is overvape. Essentially, when you have Hydro and Electro on an enemy at one time, if you hit with Pyro, you will trigger an Overload and a Vaporize, but your Vaporize will consume less of the Hydro aura. So you can kind of use Electro to protect the Hydro aura and get more reactions off of worse application. So in other words, ineffa supplements Hydro application. Like somebody I know. Number 2, she buffs your on-fielder's EM, which obviously that's valuable for Vape. And number 3, it just so happens that a lot of Pyro units like having a shield. Hu Tao, Arlecchino, Mawika, Linny, even Klee with doing her cancel stuff. So the fact that she has one is just kind of a cool coincidence. I also don't know if I explained that Xingqiu and ineffa form a pretty solid defensive core, because Xingqiu's damage reduction applies to her shield, so he makes it twice as tanky. That's why I was using it so much. I like that combo. I think it's neat. I think actually that Xingqiu is pretty solidly better than Yelan in ineffa teams. Because of that extra defense, occasionally his application can be more useful, and these teams don't benefit as much from the damage bonus. Okay, back to the video. This one I'm really interested in seeing how overvape stuff works.
Witness the power of good.
If I timed that better, oh, I could have one rotated him. I still think overall I prefer plunge, but this might be a new Hu Tao team for me. I like this. I'm having a good time. The shield makes it nice and comfy. Field push and show. Oh, he died before I could even hit him. Wow. That feels nice and good. Huh. Interesting. I kind of was just doing this for the gimmick of it, but I also like this team. I think it is kind of fun and it's comfortable and it can probably meet a lot of elemental checks. This is interesting. I like this one. I might also check this one out against Bronzelock because that's like his gimmick is increasing resistance against the element that he takes the most damage with. Also the Aeon Blight's gimmick. But the thing is, this team is stealing a lot of different types of damage. Oh, if I had burst, I think I might have been able to one-cycle him. Kill him, ineffa. Yeah. Ooh, I'm liking. And I am on a not fully built ineffa with a free-to-play polearm. Although I probably actually will just keep this on her, so what if it's free-to-play? Bronzelock time. I can kind of just drain off. I'm a little low on my energies here, if anything. There we go. Oh, wait, I didn't mean to kill him, because I needed to keep testing on him. Whatever! This is a fun one. Oh, this is a goofy one. This is a fun one. I need to start doing more overvape stuff. I didn't think I would enjoy it like this. Who would have known that electrocharge and overload add so much to vape? Well, now I'm not done. Now I want to do, like, I don't know. I can't do Linny. I want to do Linny, but I can't do Linny. You know what? I'll try Linny. Not gonna go well, but maybe it will. Maybe it will. Watch my favorite Linny team have ineffa in it. Unbelievably embarrassing. What if I did EM timepiece attack goblet? Would you guys kill me? Would you guys hate me and also kill me? I'll just try this out. We'll see how that works. I completely missed my burst.
Step right up.
Hold on. No, I don't like this. It's not real. I don't like this. It's not real. I kind of played that one like garbage, so let's give it a second shot. Let's see what happens.
Now hear the echoes of the valley. Time to sound.
Cleanup sequence initiated.
Oh, come on.
Ultimatum protocol.
Here comes the finale. Step right up.
I like it. I like it. I like it. This is horrible. Again, Linny's like not doing a ton of the damage, but this is like fun. This is fun and it's really messed up. I want to try this on like a more normal build. Also, maybe I should get a little more ER on ineffa. Also, wait. I forgot Farina did not have a circlet on. Again, need to get a little more ER on her. 16 ER. We'll try this out for size. I feel like 2 fab weapons shouldn't be, shouldn't make these ER needs as bad as they are. But I feel like I'm always just a little bit short, so I won't need many more rolls, even if I'm still lacking ER.
Annihilation mode. Installation.
Strike the pose. Time to sound. Bring it. Let the mountain's veins boil. Step right up.
Preparing.
Oh my god, alright. I mean, I'm seeing similar numbers on both my loadouts. So I guess the move is probably just to get a, you know, more functional regular build on him, just attack, fire damage bonus, because he doesn't need anything too specialized for this. Ooh, and he gets an even 200 EM after an ineffa burst. That's nice.
Letting brave names echo.
A round of applause. And voila.
Oh, this is really messed up. Okay, I need to stop this, because I'm just going to keep playing this team for hours and hours and hours. I'm going to give a screenshot to my lovely channel members, give them an idea of what's to come. All right, let's do the last thing that I was thinking about. Hey, look, man, I see an Electro character who has 20 seconds of uptime on an off-field ability. Cyno's all I ever think of. It's not my fault I'm infested with Cyno brain rot, but this particular Cyno team, I think I would like to do
For justice.
a little bit of Quickbloom. Prototype Amber is kind of my go-to option on Nahida, just like good defensive value, and she doesn't have a ton of great buffing catalysts. It's her signature. It's better than her signature in my eyes. But I might actually go Wandering Evenstar because Ineffa's shield is sizable, especially with Xingqiu's damage reduction. That's a big synergy that I've been playing around a lot with in this video, and I guess I haven't really talked about it. Xingqiu grants that damage reduction with his skill swords, and you know, those swords apply to his burst, so it reduces all the damage that Ineffa's shield is taking, makes it way tankier. Just a good lot of fun. Just nothing to complain about. And actually, you know what? Let me make sure, because I don't think I checked. Oh, hello. You are not.
Ultimatum protocol.
I think I Xingqiu first here, but maybe Cyno rotates for long enough where it doesn't really matter.
Your penance is due. Stay content. Your penance is due.
Wow, would you look at that? Cyno tears it up yet again. Who would have guessed? Let's beat some other stuff up. This really is just a variant of like the Ororon Quickbloom team that I was playing. Ineffa doesn't do any damage percent buffing, but she does more damage. And you do kind of need Xingqiu here because he's really the only solo Hydro unit that applies enough Hydro to get through Nahida's Dendro aura. And you know, it doesn't hurt that him and Ineffa together create a pretty solid defensive core.
Sins lay upon your soul. Stay content. Guilty.
Wow. Alright, he just fell apart. I love my Cyno Quickbloom. I love my Cyno Quickbloom. I don't care if you say he's wheelchaired. He's a beautiful baby boy and he does so much damage and he kills things so fast.
Preparing for dust up.
Sharing my knowledge. Know my sword. Witness the power.
Surrender. Through me, justice is served. Your penance is due. Guilty. Your penance is due.
Boom. There it is. I was actually really expecting this one to feel good, and it does feel really good. Double Electro makes Cyno's ER needs lower. She generates a lot of particles for him. And I was actually, like, not worried per se, but I was thinking that Ineffa would generate all her particles front-loaded, because it's just what units do nowadays. Like, Kaniche generates all of his particles on his first shot, same with Aoife. Escoffier does it on skill cast. Skirk just generates them kind of out of nowhere. Wika generates it on the first hit. Slow overtime particle generation just kind of seemed like something that they were moving away from. But Ineffa has slow overtime particle generation, and while it makes her own ER needs a little bit higher, it makes her able to be used as a battery for, you know, units like Cyno who really need it. I think that might be it. Maybe a little bit of an anticlimactic note to end off on, but I think that concludes a lot of my earlier Ineffa testing. She was, I think, maybe my most anticipated unit in Natlan, and she's kind of living up to that. I sort of knew she was an Electrocharge Emily from the get-go, but it was only very recently that I realized, oh, wait, she's an Electrocharge Emily. And yeah, she is. She can be a good generic DPS in her sort of dedicated teams, or you can do silly funny reaction shenanigans. And she has the added utility of a shield, which is pretty cool. And one thing that she actually has over Emily is that her role as a generic damage dealer in electrocharge teams or lunar-charge teams, her teammates are a lot more flexible, and her not wanting traditional damaging stats makes it so that you can be a lot more creative. And the traditional meta units you see in a lot of teams, she doesn't want them so much. She can work perfectly fine with less ideal options. Ineffa is a very cool character, and I am excited to go into the future looking for more teams to use with her. This character is sick. So just a few minutes ago, I mentioned I was going to send a screenshot to my channel members, and this is my official announcement, although I did announce it in a stream and also on a post, but whatever, not everybody watches those. I open channel memberships, and one of the things that becoming a channel member gets you is a shout out at the end of the video. Woo, yahoo! So I'd like to give a big thank you to SJ.is, Najoro, Dorsalfin from twitch.tv/dorsalfin1, Pegby, Penguin, and I was specifically asked to butcher the pronunciation of this one as much as I could, Rumpeltuz. I hope that's bad enough for you. But for real, as I'm recording this, I only opened memberships I think like 3 days ago, and I did not expect to get the support that I received. We've already got 7 channel members. And thank you all, you are doing a big part in ensuring that this channel has a future. I think that's it from me. I hope you learned something, and have a lovely day.